Well, good morning. How's everyone doing today? Yeah. St. Louis University is always doing good. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I know we're still waking up a little bit, but as was mentioned, my name is Reueline, and I have the honor of being one of your student speakers this morning. I just want to thank ISN and St. Louis University for this opportunity. It is pretty unreal. Today, I would love to share with you my experience as a student leader on my own campus, serving as Student Government Association President, and what I believe our schools and this country needs from students like ourselves at a time like this. In preparing for this conference, I was really struck by this year's theme, hope in precarious times. But to be honest with you, I think in times like these, the word hope has kind of lost its weight. It gets thrown around by about 1 million politicians who claim that they can bring hope or that they can give me hope. But for a moment, I want everyone to look around this room. Take a second. From my view right here, this is what gives me hope. It's students, teachers, staff, volunteers who are willing to learn and to move forward differently. So this is dedicated to every leader in here, however you show up, and with whatever God-given strengths you have. By definition, a leader is a person who leads a group, organization, or country. To be a leader at its core is to act in a way that benefits the group of people you are leading towards some sort of common goal of some kind. My favorite leader, and the one that I draw the most inspiration from, was somebody who surprisingly and intentionally chose to surround themselves with people who were diverse in every respect, even political ideology. This leader was, and still is, Jesus. Many people actually don't know this, but Jesus, yes, Jesus Christ himself, had 2 disciples who came from completely opposite ends of the political spectrum. One was named Simon the Zealot, part of a revolutionary group that was trying to come out of Roman oppression, and the other was Matthew, a tax collector for the Romans. 2 men from 2 completely opposing political groups, not only doing work together, but doing hard, emotional ministry together. Can you imagine that? In this day and age, that would kind of be like a president having a cabinet member or a vice president who was of the opposing party. And thinking about it kind of makes me want to laugh, because in this climate, that would just never happen. But Jesus did it. Now, don't get me wrong, he still disagreed with people boldly. I mean, the man did flip tables. But for every table he flipped, there were countless people he chose to share a table with, to continually be in a relationship with. He flipped tables, and he also shared meals together at those same tables. As leaders, I believe we are called to do the same, to surround ourselves with people who challenge us, who think differently, and to learn from them. Now, 4 years ago, when I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman at SLU, in college with a budding passion for politics and advocacy, I was honestly convinced that I could never be friends with someone who held different political views than mine. But I personally believe God has a sense of humor and enjoys a little bit of irony, because that same year, I was introduced to someone at school who could not have been more politically different from me. They were the kind of person who made me want to run around and flip tables. But as it turns out, this person and I had a really close mutual friend. And for the life of me, I could not understand how this mutual friend of ours, could be friends with both of us, given how different we were. So naturally, being me, I just straight up asked him. And he said, "You know what, Rue? I'll tell you what. If you get to know him and you genuinely think he's a bad guy, I'll trust your judgment." And so, determined to prove him wrong, as I do, I set out to confirm my own beliefs. But the closer I got to this person, the more I realized that we had much more in common than I expected. Now, don't get me wrong, we still disagree a lot, but now we can do so in a productive way, thanks to the friendship we've built and the respect we've built for each other. And 2 years later, when I ran for student body president at SLU, he became one of my biggest supporters and biggest advocates, despite our massive differences. Now, before I conclude and wrap up, I want to offer you 2 ways that have aided me in practically becoming a more loving and empathetic leader. It didn't just happen. I didn't come up with these. In fact, I learned them from a faith leader who does this really well in my own community. But I believe that if every single one of us chooses to apply even just one of these 2 things, we can slowly change the way we show love to one another when politics seems the most overwhelming or when our lives feel the most at stake. The first one is a simple phrase: seek to discover before you discipline. It's so easy to assume the worst, especially when we have political or ideological differences. But true leadership means recognizing that we are all imperfect and acting with empathy. Before rushing to discipline someone or correct them, take the time to understand their perspective. For me, this has literally meant asking questions like, help me understand why you believe that. Seek to discover the full picture first, because this is how we can foster mutual respect and create opportunities for more meaningful dialogue. And the second is a little bit more fun. It's to celebrate learning moments. No one in this room knows every nuance or statistic there is to know about a single human rights or political issue. That's just a fact. And neither do people on the other side of whatever aisle you land on. Give yourself and those around you, or against you, the opportunity to recognize their shortcomings, own it, and allow it to become a moment of celebration rather than a moment of criticizing. Every time someone gains a new perspective they didn't have before should be celebrated as a moment of growth, because it is. And remember, love holds no record of wrongs, so don't continually hold past mistakes against each other either. We all have the choice to lead with love. These 2 simple things have been so important for me stepping into a leadership this year to empower me to lead with love. This year has been pretty hard as a student leader. I have met with students on both sides of the conflict of Israel and Palestine. I've worked with voter engagement initiatives for students of all political identities. I've had really hard conversations about abortion and how my university can reconcile our history with slavery and racism. But in moments like these, I look to Jesus. They've been scary, but I know that he has helped me meet individuals from multiple angles of an issue and hear each of them out. Looking to his example, it's so possible to have hope. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in a speech, and I think Jesus would agree, I'm convinced that men hate each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other. And they don't communicate with each other because they are separated from each other. Whatever you do from now moving forward, whether it's advocating on the Hill or returning back to the classroom with that really annoying opinionated person you disagree with, be in fellowship and fraternity with each other. And we can be one step closer to hope in this precarious time. Thank you.